Right here is actually a mass grave. These are the guys, some of them, who were killed on the battle here from the Confederates. And they were, you know, enemies, but they were brave. It's interesting. I mean, who knows? It could be that my ancestors shot at and maybe even killed some of these men. This was originally, actually, it still is a mass grave, I should say, even though they have individual markers. They were thrown into a mass grave, and then the wooden markers eventually deteriorated, and they don't know where the original ones are buried. And then they erected these ones after the fact to commemorate them. One thing I noticed on the other part of the cemetery here are a lot of Floyd surnames. I'm going to pause it and bring you over there. There's a lot of both Union and Confederates that died along the way that are absolutely unknown and never received a burial, or if they did, it was on the side of the road and no one knows where they're buried anymore. I'm going to pause it for 1 second. This cemetery has a lot of Floyds in it. I have no idea if they're related to my Floyds who fought here. But I wanted to say that one thing I know about Spencer Floyd is he kept up communications with his cousins that were Confederates. I saw a writing that mentioned Floyd at one point and said that he had kept up communications with, you know, his Floyd cousins in the Confederate Army. And those original letters we do not have. How awesome would it be to have those? So if they're in some archive somewhere in someone's personal possession, I would love to see them. But you see here a mix. You know, it was a divided family in southern Illinois. A lot of people had Confederate sympathies because they had migrated up from, you know, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi. And oh, look, here's a James Floyd. Shares the name with my guy who fought here. But it shows how torn everyone was. You know, you see Confederate flags flying. I saw one over here that said heritage, not hate. And, you know, I don't know what to make of it all. Obviously, I have mixed feelings, and especially people from the North, mixed feelings about the whole thing, you know. But you can see that how it tore families apart. We had my guy, Spencer Floyd and James Floyd, you know, and then their cousins who knows, maybe they fought against him here. How crazy would that be, to fight against your own family in this war? So, with that, I will conclude this portion. But it is it's a very cool thing to be here. It really makes you stop and think about how divided it was then. It's still divided now in the country, which is a whole different video. But there it is. This is right at the crossroads. That's where it happened. There's the cemetery, and here's the marker I showed you a moment ago where my guys fought. And there is looking across the field where they took the charge. There's a sign over there. I might try to read that real quick. A little windy here, but this is just general information. But this is the field where Forrest's men charged across, guns blazing. This was not farmed at the time right here. It was all very dense scrub oak, like you can see in those trees on the horizon there. Just very dense wooded area. And then this is where they were firing at, right about where my car is, and across the street where the 120th Illinois was stationed. I mentioned earlier that some of the Illinois, or I should say Union, soldiers who died at BRICE'S Crossroads were disinterred and taken to the Corinth National Cemetery. Well, here it is. I believe most of the people here are both Civil War and also veterans after the war from different wars as well. And I don't even know where to begin to look for 120th Illinois, even if they're marked. I'm gonna get out and check it out for a quick moment. I don't have too much time to stay. I looked briefly in a directory and there are several Floyds buried here. I don't know on which side. Like I said, it was a divided family. But this is the final resting place somewhere in here of friends, family of my ancestor Floyd's who fought on that battle. You know, this is the place where their friends are buried now. It's rather amazing and very humbling. Found a likely spot. A lot of these guys, here's an Illinois man. Some of these names look familiar, as if I've seen them on the roster before or something, but I don't know. You know, Indiana, Wisconsin. I mean, these are Union soldiers who came here to the South and lost their lives. Some of them, you know, say they're from Illinois. Others don't. It looks like they used whatever information they had. Some are just initials. Others are just numbers, because it's just, you know, in war you just don't know the identification a lot of the time. You never know where you're gonna end up. It's rather incredible. If the Union soldiers who died at BRICE'S Crossroads were disinterred and reburied, I doubt that there would be much to identify them. You never know. But they could be the numbers here. The unknown soldier. But these are somewhere in here, these are the friends of, you know, the fallen brothers of the regiment that my ancestors fought in. There are a lot. Well, that concludes our little tour of BRICE'S Crossroads and the roles that Spencer Floyd and James Floyd played in that battle. I guess a little epilogue. I believe it was the 1870s after the war that James Floyd and Spencer Floyd both moved west to Kansas. This little village of Beloit, where Spencer was a judge after that, and according to my great-great-uncle Marvin's memoirs, also was an early mayor, although I can't find record of that elsewhere, but he was at least certainly a judge, as the records show, and played a prominent role in founding that community. James Floyd lost an arm. It does not appear that it was related to this battle. it may have come after the war. We're not exactly sure. I need to do a little bit more research in order to figure that one out. But he lost an arm. And I suspect it happened after the war. In any case, they settled there. It was right after a Sioux War had concluded, and settled that area. And around there it was essentially Wild West. I believe he might have even been sheriff there at one point. I'm not sure. Spencer. So it was a Wild West town, essentially. But then one of their daughters moved up to Washington, and that's how they became into our family. But it's a unique family situation for us too, because we still have the Civil War discharge papers from James Finney Floyd, Spencer's son, and that was passed down generation to generation, and right now is with me. But that's kind of what really got me started in this line of the family, you know, seeing that old folded yellow piece of paper with, you know, it shows, you know, James Finney Floyd, height and complexion, whatever, farmer from Pope County, Illinois, all that stuff. You see his discharge papers, and it's neat to have that piece of history still a part of your family. And now coming here was actually a very, very cool experience for me to really see what they did that day. You know, it was the only real battle that they had fought. I've got some ancestors in different branches of the family from different battles, but this was, you know, in some ways very unique. Not only do we have the Civil War discharge papers of these guys, you know, Spencer was a commander of the whole regiment after this battle because, you know, his boss was captured, you know, and he had to navigate the panic of battle while still trying to be a father, and God only knows how did that play out. I don't know. I can't even imagine. If my son was in battle with me and having to perform your duty as an officer and keep your men together, it takes some kind of fortitude.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto the US 45 North ramp to Selmer,
that's terrible.
Tennessee.
Yeah. Anyway, so Spencer was actually sick his whole life after the war.
Turn right onto the US 45 North ramp, then merge onto US 45.
Thank you, computer lady. She'll probably talk again in a second after I turn. So, he was sick his whole life. His Civil War pension records, which I don't have an exact copy of yet, but I will obtain them. But from somebody else who had a copy, said that he had dysentery for his entire life following the war. When they were in the siege of Vicksburg, you know, remember I said they didn't actually have combat there, but they had held troop positions and such. Well, he contracted dysentery really bad. Actually, I think 250 people in that regiment died from sickness alone, and he was nearly one of them. So imagine that now. He contracted dysentery in Vicksburg and then went to battle at BRICE'S Crossroads. So he was terribly ill the entire time as well. And it never left. It stayed in his gut the rest of his life. And he was able to get a pension for it for later on. But, you know, imagine that. You're trying to find your son. You're trying to struggle to keep a modicum of order, and you have the runs, and you're out of ammo. I'm very glad he survived. I'm glad his son survived, because, you know, that's... Now I'm here. But I believe that is all I have to say. There's probably things I'm forgetting that are neat facts, but it's been a long time since I've reviewed all the notes on this. But it's been an amazing experience to be able to come out here and see this battlefield, and I will leave you with that.